Hey everyone, welcome. This is going to be a fun session tonight. This is the Choroideremia Research Foundation chat. It's a webinar tonight that we're going to do with three of my really actually friends of mine that I've known for a long time with the Choroideremia Research Foundation. This came from a discussion John had with several others on staff. I believe it was John about having a real good discussion about guide dogs. And so, who would be better to do it than three guests that are joining us tonight? And I'll introduce them in a second. But what we wanted to do is structure it in such a way where they will be taking turns, taking about 10 minutes or so about their decisions, how they made the decision to go to a guide dog, where they went to school, and they'll share their journey with a guide dog. And then that'll be about half the time. And the second half, we're really going to take your questions. This is the good time to ask. They'll take turns at, or maybe all of them will answer. But I'll be monitoring the chat feature. So please use the Q&A or chat, and I will pose the questions to these gentlemen, and we'll take it from there. No question is a dumb question. Uh, I think that's probably about it. So I want to introduce three of us are in plaid and one of us in a tank top. We were giggling about that before. So first of all, starting on the East Coast, we have John Trott, who is in Westfield. Yeah, Westfield, New Jersey, close to me on the East Coast. And then we go to Bob Hrdy, who's in the central US, and he's from Lafayette, Indiana. And then our West Coast beach bunny is Mike Martens, and he is in Clovis, California. So, for that introduction, hey guys, how's it going? All of us are in our plaid shirts. Um, we're going to start smiles for everyone. Excellent. We're going to start with John, and then John, you can pass it off to the next gentleman. But we have a very nice, healthy group with us tonight. So, let's get started.
Great. Thanks a million, Beth. And welcome everybody. And thanks for joining the webinar. We thought this would be a good one. It was actually, yeah, it was when I was talking to Reagan Davini, she said, you've got a guide dog and other people have guide dogs. We should do a guide dog webinar. I bet some people might want to know maybe a guide dog is the right thing for me, but I don't exactly know. Who do I ask? Well, we hope that we can answer an awful lot of those questions for you that I'm assuming you're here because it might be a possibility for you. And I hope that when it's all done, at least you have a good inkling of whether it may be something that would be a good thing for you or not. But so we'll do that. As Beth said, we'll just do a quick run through on myself, Bob, and Mike on what school we went to, why guide dog, and that kind of thing, our particular situation, and then we'll open up for a whole lot of Q&A. So first, so I'm John Trott again, as Beth said. I'm in Westfield, New Jersey. It's just about 40 minutes outside New York. And so I am 62 and I have fully lost my vision. So that was about 5 years ago. It was coincidentally came right around COVID time, which is also coincidentally the time when I was getting my dog. Well, maybe not so coincidentally when you're, vision going. And one of those things that is an important question is, well, how bad does my vision have to be before I would get a guide dog? And that is something, and we can get to that in the Q&A. But usually you want to be pretty far along in your vision decay. And the reason for that is that if you see too much, then you're going to be fighting the dog all the time because you'll see something you think you want to do, and the dog will see something it wants to do, and they're super well trained to help you. And if you see a little too much, then it becomes really problematic with the dog. So, I mean, that's my quick thing. We can get into more later, but for me, like many of you, I'd been, progressively losing vision. And so um, and probably like many of you, I'd been very reluctant to use a cane. I had one for a while, did O&M training before, and realized, wow, this cane thing is pretty hard. Not that you can't get around and stuff, but if you want to get around at speed and safely and all that, you really have to be good at knowing exactly where are you in the room, where are you, anything else, because otherwise, if you're looking for the door, you go to the wall and then you follow your way across left or right. And eventually you'll get there. It'll work, but it just takes, takes a lot of time and patience and really good listening skills, hearing and concentration and so on. And also it's the cane, and I fought it. My wife was really on me, like, look, there's a couple things with the cane. Yeah, part of it is mobility, and that's great. The other part is you got to let people know why you might be looking disoriented or bump into things. They're going to look at you, and you don't look like anything other than somebody who's disoriented, and they're going to think maybe, maybe he had too much to drink. Maybe he's taking something else. And if you have the cane, suddenly it's, oh, wow, I get it. That makes sense. Maybe he needs help. And yeah, all that made perfect sense. And eventually I got there, but it was a lot later than I should have. But as I got there, it was really my wife saying, "Hey, look, the dogs may be something that allow a lot more independence." And so I contacted a number of CHMers who had dogs and said, "Could you tell me, as I navigate through and I'm looking for independence, because my wife's working full time, and so she's not always going to be around. There's not, my kids are older, and so do I need, if I want to go out and go do some stuff, then I got to get around. And yes, I can do it with a cane, but maybe a dog would be more efficient. So how do I do that?" And I talked to a number of people, and and one of them had said, "Look, I'm on my third dog. And I tell you, if I have a GPS and a good guide dog, I can go anywhere." And I thought, it's pretty lofty. I don't know, man. You are blind at the end of the day. And now here I am 5 years into this journey thinking he was totally right. I mean, absolutely totally right. And now I have way better tech than we did even, 5, 6 years ago with the apps on the phone and stuff. So, my journey started in 2020, and I got my dog at the Seeing Eye, which is in Morristown, New Jersey. So it's the oldest school in the country. Not necessarily the biggest, but it's one of the big ones. And you'll hear, Bob and Mike talk about theirs too. There are also some big schools in the U.S. that service the North American market, Canada and the U.S. But so I went there, and I applied. I got through. They came to the house, interviewed me, and said, "Yeah, what you're looking to do, go to work, get around, trains, maybe fly, all that kind of stuff, navigate around your town, cross big streets, all that stuff. Yep, you can do all that stuff. Your home's suitable for the dog and all that." So I went to training. For the first dog, it's 3.5 weeks. You're on site. I was on site at the Seeing Eye for 3.5 weeks, full time, and came out with my dog, and that was 5 years ago. So Emerald, who maybe I'll have a peek. Well, I'll pull her over here. She's in the background. But she's now 7, and doing great. So knock on wood. I hope that she'll guide a little, like a bunch longer. But anyway, for now, the one thing I could tell you is that it's been incredibly helpful, for speed. I knew that I'd be able to get around faster with a dog than a cane. Absolutely true. Safer, maybe not safer. I think cane travelers can be super safe, but the dogs are great, and they navigate you around really, really well. The thing that the dogs do, obviously, is they have great recall and they pattern really quickly. So that if you have a friend's place or a bus that you always take or a coffee shop that you like, things like that, if you get in the neighborhood walking around with that, they'll, take you right up to the door every single time without a mistake. And so, and just when you tell them where you want to go, on that stuff, when you get close, it's not from, the get-go and stuff, but they do pattern really well. And the easiest way to describe the dogs versus the canes are the cane is an obstacle detector. The cane wants to find the obstacle so that, and you go, okay, I've got the obstacle, and then I go around it safely. The dog is an obstacle avoider. You don't even know that the hole in the sidewalk, the tree, the people standing in the way, seats, tables, and all that stuff, they just wind their way through. And so you really don't know that you avoid all that stuff. So it isn't good or bad. At the end of the day, hopefully you end up safely on the other side of the obstacles. They just do it in with a different format. So again, for me, the one thing that I can say, on the positive side, fantastic. It's your buddy, very safe, super well trained, very efficient getting through stuff. And the dogs are great. They become, when the harness comes off, they're part of the family. They're a normal dog. People don't really believe that until they see them. When they're on harness, they're just the normal dog running around the house and backyard and with your friends and stuff. So she's a big part of the family. Other people in my family can take her out for normal dog walks, which she prefers way more than going out with me, because then she can sniff and pee everywhere and all that stuff, which she does not do when she's on harness. But you have that, but it does require it. You have maintenance. So right, it's a dog. It gets sick sometimes, and you go to the vet. You feed it, take it out for its business all day, and so there is that work. I mean, you need to do that for sure. I think, but on our side, it's been tremendously helpful. And the final little thing that I found before I turn over to Bob was I completely underestimated the social aspect of a dog. Um, short of having a giant German Shepherd where I'm 6'2", so if I had a big German Shepherd walking around, people would be not wanting to come anywhere near me. But my dog's like a 60 pound black lab with a wagging tail all the time. So it's super social. I mean, so many people tell me, oh, what a cute dog. Oh, what a nice dog. What a nice, which gets you into a conversation, which is nice. And I think, as opposed to being with a cane, as I hear from a lot of friends that are cane users say, it can be lonely. And with the dog, it is, if you make it lonely, you're not trying hard. The dog is really a bridge to the rest of society, and they do a great job with it too. So that's the little social play. But that's so my journey is, I would highly recommend it, and happy to answer all kinds of questions later. But I don't want to overrun time, and make sure we have lots of time for questions and turnover. I'll turn it over to Bob Hrdy in Lafayette, Indiana.
All right. Hey, guys. Glad you can make it. I am Bob Hrdy. I'm from Lafayette, Indiana, and I got my dog at a school called Leader Dogs for the Blind, which is in Rochester Hills, Michigan. I'm on my second one. I got my first dog in 2008, Alex. He was a golden retriever. And when I transitioned from him to the next, I've got Finn, who's a yellow lab. Um, a lot of as we talk, the three of us were talking, the programs are similar and but can be a little different. Um, the school has a campus. You go up there for 3 weeks. Well, let me go back. The first thing you need to do is to um, get that O&M training. Um, and my journey started with I still had some vision. I have about 1 degree of central vision left in my left eye, but it's not really all that useful. But we traveled a lot. My son played college baseball. We like to go. So uh, we'd go walk through a airport and everyone would be like, oh, aren't they wonderful? They always hold hands and stuff like that. And then one day we went through and there was a family and there was a mother, father, and two kids. And they expected us to break up and go around them. And we didn't. And they kind of grumped. And pretty soon my wife told me, she says, all right, we're not doing this till you get a cane. So I don't know if the other guy's done this, but it was grab a cane, order a cane, got it, had no idea how to use it. Um, I just called it the get the hell out of my way stick. Uh, I'd walk through the TSA or whatever and then fold it back up and put it in my pocket. Um, and then one day actually it was going to be her birthday. She goes, for my birthday, it would be great if you would think about getting a dog. And I said, okay. Then she got mad at me. And I said, why are you mad at me? She goes, it took me like 3 months for you to get a cane and it took you 30 seconds to tell you to get a dog. I said, well, nobody ever said that's a cute cane you got there. So it was a process, and I had to get the O&M training. And I looked into doing it here, and it was going to take me 3 months. And then I looked at the guide dog schools, and leader dog was the closest. So I actually looked at seeing eye. I also looked at guide dogs, and it just worked out. And I got involved in that. And I, told them I wanted to get a dog. So that at the end of the O&M training, they allowed me to do what they call a Juno walk, which is the trainer uses a harness and acts like the dog. And they said, well, you'd be a great fit. So that was my beginning to get a dog. Um, I I think you're right about it. Give you a lot. It gave me, now some people are great with a cane, but it gave me a lot more independence with the dog. Um, I'm able to walk across many busy streets. I volunteer at a school 1.5 miles from here. I go there every day. Um, but and like John was saying, I always when I talk to people and I'll say, if you're a young guy or gal, I say, they're a great magnet. It's like everyone always wants, oh, that's a great dog. And so you're going to meet people. And it took me out of my shell. I was not a great going out there and talking to people. And now I do it a lot. Um, I got involved also with the Lions Club, which was founded the guide dog school in 1939. So um, a lot of what John said goes for us too. They kind of work in groups of a trainer with 3 or 4 of you. They also do some home training. Now I know the difference between the with John. I don't know about with Mike. Um, they don't come back once you go home. They don't uh, come back, but they do keep track of you. And if you need help, they will send somebody. Um, my wife told me that it was like the first when they flew me up there, so I had to go without really knowing how to even use a cane. They allowed her to take me to the thing, but um, it was like sending our kids to kindergarten for the first time. She's like, "How's they going to do this? How are they going to do that?" With the dog, same thing. They pick you up at the airport, take you to the place. When you're done, they take you back to the airport, put you on a plane, and there off you go. Um, I've had my dogs have flown from uh, Seattle to Fresno to Denver to Boston to Orlando to Dallas, um, and never had any issues. So I'm just going to, I find that it's a much easier process if we open it up for questions and let them question. So I'm going to pass it on to Mike and let him talk about his school.
Hi, everybody. Mike Martens here, Central Valley, California. Hometown is Clovis. My journey started in, I want to say it was 2013. My cane journey actually started in 2009 or 10. And like Bob was just saying, I bought a cane off the internet, thought I could use it. Actually did more damage to the cane and myself than I was really worth having. So I applied through the state to get mobility instruction to really become more efficient. And that's what I look at, either a cane or a dog efficiency. Where I want to move, I want to move. And this was in 2000, 2013, almost 2014. In 6 months, I broke 6 canes. And if you stop and think about it, those canes are about $50 a piece. And and usually when I broke a cane, I was anywhere from 1.5 miles to 2 miles away from home. And that's a long walk home, and all you can see is the gray sidewalk and the green grass. So picking a line and finding your way back is pretty upsetting. And the 6th one I broke, I found my way back home, and I was pretty upset. And I was like, there has got to be a better way to do this. And, to kind of put that on a little bit of perspective of breaking a cane. So I'm 6 foot tall, about 210, 212, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I walk fast. When my instructors were out here, my average walking speed was about 4.2 miles an hour. And so when you run into something with a cane or cracking a sidewalk or something, you're going to snap it pretty quick. And just by chance, a friend of mine had sent me a TED Talk with a woman talking about guide dogs. And I listened to that, and I was curious. I didn't know anybody with a dog. I hardly knew anybody that used a cane or a dog. And so I started investigating, and my mobility instructor, on my last day with her, I was asking her to help me find a pet dog. And she goes, "No, Mike, don't mess with that. Get a guide dog." And just by chance, my mobility instructor was a master instructor from Guide Dogs for the Blind. So she told me to quit playing games, just accept what you're going through and apply for a dog. It took me about a year to make that decision. And I asked my wife, I said, "Hey, you want to take a weekend and go up to San Rafael to Guide Dogs for the Blind and take a tour of the campus?" And now, mind you, Guide Dogs for the Blind has 2 campuses, one in San Rafael, California, which is about an hour away from downtown San Francisco. And then they have another campus in Boring, Oregon. I've never been there. I can't say too much about it. When we walked onto the campus of San Rafael, it was, I can't believe there's almost 200 dogs here. There was just no smell of dogs, no nothing. And the campus was absolutely stunning. And we went on a small tour. I fell in love with it. My wife turned around and looked at me and says, "You're doing this." And that kind of was the start of my journey. And what you have to also understand is these dogs are absolutely stunning, amazing. They're your great friend. But there can also be a lot of tragedy and pain in having these dogs. They're just like us. One day, their time is up and they're gone. And, unfortunately, I lost my first dog in 22. And it took me 2.5 years to get a new dog because of COVID and a lot of other things. But it's just an amazing way of life. Me and my first dog, we went everywhere. I would have people stop me at the coffee shop. "Hey, I saw you over here. Was that you I saw over there?" And so we were just on the move all the time. And my wife was still working also. It's a wonderful journey. It's just like having children. You're attached to a 2-year-old toddler all the time. And that's how they'll act sometimes, but when they're in harness and they're in uniform, it's all professional stuff. Like I said, I had a huge break in between dogs. And I went from using a dog one day to using a cane the next day. And I was always shocked at what I did not realize my dog was taking me around, moving me from the left to the right, getting me out of the way of shrubbery, breaks in the sidewalk, all kinds of stuff, potholes. And when he passed, I found all of that stuff with my cane. So it's an amazing journey. I can't I can't see myself going without a dog again. I love the lifestyle. I love the people it brings into my life. Um, when you use a guide dog, your school wants you to become an advocate and a supporter for them. And and then you have to learn how to tell people no, because they're going to want to come up and touch your dog, pet your dog while your dog is working, and that's a big no. It distracts them, takes them out of their focus, and you can get hurt. So the maintenance stuff, there's a lot of maintenance, but it's just like if you've raised kids, it's kind of the same thing. You brush their teeth, you comb their hair, you feed them, you take them out. Well, teach your kids how to go to the bathroom. You teach your dog where to go to the bathroom in the backyard. That's usually on a leash. So you know where everything is at. You can pick it up and, clean up after yourself and your dog. Then veterinarian stuff. But I love the pace that I can walk with my dog. He's Wrangler that I have now. He's 25 and a half inches tall and about 72 pounds. And when we walk, man, he makes me move. And I love getting from point A to point B quickly. And so from there, I'll turn it back to Beth and we can start taking questions.
Hey, Beth, this is Bob. I just want to throw in, when you're talking about a toddler, it's even when you travel, you have your suitcase and the dog has theirs. So you got food, you got water, you got bags, just know that, and that you're
having that diaper bag all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you figure out how to get a little bag when you're doing little travel and other bags.
But you know what, Mike, the one thing that I'd say a twist on your toddler, like, they're young, but they come out so well trained.
Oh yeah.
My analogy is like, when I got Emerald here, I felt like I was a 17-year-old kid who just got my driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
And my crazy old rich uncle pulls up with a brand new Ferrari stick into the driveway, throws me the keys and goes, "Congratulations, son. So proud of you. Here's your new car." And you're going, "I don't know how to drive a stick. I don't know how to drive a performance car. I'm just desperately trying to be able to get it down the street, not bump the other cars on there."
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are finely tuned machines, and it takes you a little while to catch up. At least it did with me. I realized, and I almost felt
I
like,
agree 100% with
right?
that. My first dog, he was turnkey operation. We just went Wrangler. It took us to become a really good gel team. It probably took us close to 6.5, 7 months.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
Yeah.
and for me, especially when it's your first time around, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Just stupid little stuff as you're sitting and the dog's just staring up at you and you're going, "Why is the dog not moving?" You realize, "Oh yeah, I'm too far up on its hip."
Mm-hmm.
Take a step back and all of a sudden the dog goes, "Thank you, you dummy." And then
Yeah.
poof, and off it goes and takes off. So, as you go forward, it's one of those first things you look at, but they just come in so well trained. I felt I was catching up, but when you do catch up, wow,
Mm-hmm.
they are really, really good at what they do.
Yep.
They're
Let
really
me ask a
good.
question, guys.
Yeah.
You were talking, we do have some questions that are here that I'll pose to you in
Good.
a second.
Yeah.
My dad had two different dogs, and he did travel on the plane as well. Do you find that regular, I would want to use the word coach, or do you need to be in that very first row so they have more available space, the dogs?
They curl up pretty well. I mean, no, like what Bob said, and I'm sure Mike too. Emerald's been on tons of flights. It's better to be like economy plus. I mean, I flew so much for work on United. I get bumped to slightly bigger seats. It doesn't mean business class and stuff, but it's a little bit bigger. But even normal economy, they tuck in there pretty well, and she manages no problem for like multiple hours.
When we fly in the U.S. domestically, we usually fly Southwest, and with that we usually get pre-board, and we'd always get the bulkhead. and he would just lay. But if you have to sit in another seat, they train them to make themselves, curl up
Pretty
or
small.
lay down. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, Wrangler's, almost 26 inches tall. He's a big dog.
That's a big guy.
And when we flew to Arizona to go see our daughter and granddaughter, and we did not get the most expensive seats on the plane. In other words, we were in the back of the plane. And I got an aisle seat. Generally, I like to get the window seat when I have a dog with me. And it's just easier to get them tucked in and everything like that. And getting Wrangler under the seat was pretty easy, and he got himself comfortable. And here's this big dog kind of hanging out between my legs, and wait, the stewardess comes by and she looks down and she about screamed. She wasn't ready to see a big dog staring up at her. But
Yeah,
he
like,
likes it when we're on the two-seaters, on a plane with two seats, because there's no support under the two seats in front of you. So he can stretch out underneath all of that. When you're in, planes like the 737s that have three seats across, one of the seats has a support, and it gets a little crowded for him then.
now, one of the things I've done is I will ask the stewardess if it's okay to take the harness off, and that makes it just a little bit easier.
Yeah,
And
when I get him on a plane, I have him leashed, and his harness is still on. But when I get to the seat, I take the harness off of him, just get it completely off, leather and all.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's get started, guys.
Yep.
First of all, just a shout out to the CRF book club members, as John and I are both in here, and you guys are in the house. Thank you so much for coming tonight. If anybody's interested in joining our fabulous book group, just shoot me a message here and I'll make sure you're included. We've got some great people on our book club. Okay, we're going to start from the top. The first question is, and you guys touched on it, but if you want to spend just another few minutes on this, how you dealt with thoughts of eventually guide dog will retire after working with them for so many years, or even when they die, how do you, for those of you that have gone through that, how does that process work mentally and emotionally?
Oh boy.
Well, I know Mike had a little tougher time than me. So when I transitioned from my first to my second, he basically retired himself because he knew he didn't want to be in charge. And then when he passed, it was tough, no doubt about it. But for me, the fact that he was still around when I got my second one made it a little bit easier. And then the place that our vet clinic, we wanted to have him cremated. And what a fantastic thing happened here in Lafayette was we're across the river from West Lafayette, and there's the place that's a crematorium. I expected to have to pay, and when we went to pick up his ashes, the vet said there's no cost. I said, say what? And the crematorium does it for service animals, and they put them in this real nice box, and then they also donated $50 to the vet school at West Lafayette at Purdue. And like now Finn both dogs fit. Alex was about 9.5 when and Finn will turn 10 in 2 weeks. And he has nothing really that's physically too bad with him, but I am getting ready to transition. But I myself didn't want to go, where I wouldn't have a dog for a long time. I just feel so much more freedom with the dog. So, when things start to go, or the vet says, maybe you got to start looking ahead, that's when I started to transition.
Hey, Bob, can we just break in here for a second before the other guys chime in about that? How does it work with two dogs at one? Does your original dog, was he like, hey, what's going on? I'm not going out. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, he had the thing. Then he got glaucoma in one eye, and we had to take his one eye out. So we called him. I called him R because he was my pirate dog. But yeah, for a while when I got Finn, you know, and I know the other guys, when you get ready to go, I say, all right, let's go, harness up. And I'll hold the harness up and they run up, stick their nose in there and they do it, get in there. So Finn would come do it. And then Alex would come walking up and like, well, are you guys going somewhere? You know, just kind of looking and stuff. And I said, no, you have to go lay down. And so finally one day I had his old harness and I said, okay. So I took his harness up and I said, all right, Alex, harness up. And Vic said he kind of looked at the harness, looked at it, and then said, nah, turned around and walked back and laid down. He says, if I got to wear that thing, no thanks. But he could go out on a leash for sure, but it wasn't really much of a problem. Yeah, they kind of go, what's going on? How come I can't go? But they learn pretty quickly.
Thanks for answering that. Anybody else about the whole loss and dealing with the emotional piece?
John, you want to go, or you got anything?
I don't have one because she's number one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Like I said, Adley passed when in 22, and we had been working together 6.5 years, and the first year was fantastic. No issues, no nothing. The second year, he got out of his bed, which was very unusual, and my wife was in the living room, and he fell in the kitchen and proceeded to have a grand mal seizure. And that just progressively got worse over time. And then in July of 21, we were probably about a block away from our home, and he was attacked by a pit bull, and he was hurt pretty bad. After that, I wasn't sure if he was going to come back and recover from that. And probably about 6.5 months after recovering from that, he was starting to work, but our walks were very short. At that point in time, I was kind of sort of considering retiring because anytime a dog would bark or hit the fence, he would, lose focus, be very distracted. And then it was like, I need to get out of here kind of thing. And then unfortunately, his seizures they started clustering for about 2 months. And then in one day, he had, I want to say it was 13 to 15 grand mal seizures in a 20-hour period. And it was devastating to me. Because I put everything I had into this dog. I broke every rule with Guide Dogs for the Blind. I took him and went from a kibble diet to a raw fed diet. And boy, did I got my ass chewed for that. But I didn't care. It was the way they were treating people with seizures back in the 20s. So I figured if they can do it, I can try this with him too. And unfortunately, the seizures got the better part of him, and we had to put him down because he just was not coming back. So after he passed, I applied 4 days after he had passed, with a lot of encouragement from one of his puppy raisers and my wife. And, we were just exiting all the heavy stuff with COVID. And I knew for me, it was going to be a tough recovery because I had a lot of emotion embedded in Adley. And, we were together 24 hours a day. While my wife was working, him and me were out getting in trouble. And so I was glad for the 2.5 years that I needed to wait. The ironic thing about all of that is it was exactly 2.5 years from the day he passed to the day I was recalled and back on campus for a new dog. And the hard part was they put me in the exact same room that I was in when I first got Adley. So there was a lot of emotional stuff going on for me. That's not for everybody. It was just me. You know, you become very emotionally linked to these animals. They're not just your guide dog. You become your friend, your partner, your sounding board. You know, and they save your ass from on occasion, you know, from a car that's not paying attention.
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot there. It's tough, but you know, it's part of the life. And I just, as tough as it was, I was, you know, when it was time for me to get a new one, I was ready.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's good. Another person, we have more questions, guys, that are coming in. And for those of you that are thinking, oh, I don't know, just please do, because we have about half an hour left. So please type your answers or questions in rather. Here's the next one. Do you find that a "do not pet me, I am working" sign prevents the public from distracting the guide dog while out? I think, oh, here we go. We know the answer. Or do the public ignore the signs and pet anyway? What is the best way to respond? People do not touch or pet my white cane. Exactly. Good question. Okay, guys.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'll start with this. So I think what I've found, I break all the rules on this one, but there is a rationale for it. Um, Early on when you get your dog, especially the young dogs and stuff, they are prone to be distracted. You got to work with them all the time in training, and even in that first year and a bit or so, they can be distracted easily. So at that point, um, being really tough, like, hey, sorry, you know, when the dog's in harness, please, you know, please don't touch. Every once in a while, you know, somebody will reach and just pet without saying anything. And hey, I'm blind, man. I don't know. I don't know. Like if it's reaching and touching it, I don't know. Go, hey, you know what? That little girl just petted your dog. I'm like, whatever. I didn't see it, but most of the time, the vast majority of times, people ask, and you have the opportunity to say, I'm sorry, you know, she's working, but not. I held that very tough for the first year, and people are generally very respectful of that. Now my dog's pretty social and she works beautifully when she's happy. And so if we're at a corner or you're waiting or we're just kind of standing around and somebody goes, "Oh, what a nice dog. Could I pet her?" Yeah, I'm not moving. It's okay. My dog's tail's wagging. They pet her. Great. Boom. And when we say go, she's all business, like perfectly dialed in. And I wouldn't do it if I thought that the petting would distract her. It doesn't. I mean, she's grown up and evolved into really being focused when we go, but in the early times, I didn't take that chance. You have to get pretty disciplined and locked in first before you potentially open the floodgates. So that's my
When it comes to the signs, I volunteer at a elementary school my kids went to. So one of the kind of the cool things is I teach, I help in the library. I know that sounds weird, but okay. Um, but so I will, when each class comes in, I will do a little guide dogs, working dog
Etiquette.
talk etiquette. And you will mention, you know, it says, "Do not pet me, I am working." And so that, you know, they learn it. But the most, you know, what I've realized is there are a lot of adults that can read, but their comprehension seems to be a little off. Um, so, you know, like you said, sometimes you're out and especially if I'm with my wife, we'll be walking along and I've actually heard someone say, "Do not pet me, I am working." And then we'll pass. And then my wife will say, "Hey, they just reached over and petted him." Well, okay. But the fun part for me is when I'm out and I hear a little voice behind me saying, "Hey, there's Finn and Mr. Hrdy." As we all know, we get second billing. And they'll tell their dad or mom, "You can't pet him, he's working." So that's the fun part. But yes, it's for the most part, most people will be cognizant of it and pay attention. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I've lightened up on that a whole lot. with my second dog, and I think just the experience,
Yeah.
and time in harness. My first dog, I really didn't let anybody touch him, and people would, oh God, they would call me every name under the sun. I'd be lined up getting ready to cross the 6-lane intersection, and this lady, hey, can I pet your dog? And I said, he's working. We're getting ready to cross that street right there. I need him focused. And I still want to pet your dog. And she was so insistent. I said, look, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to take his harness. I'm going to let him come after you. And even though he'd probably lick her to death, but it was just, some people are just very insistent, and that's when you draw a line. And no, please don't touch my dog. And I'm only going to ask you once.
Mm-mm.
Mine usually is saying that he's working, but if you see me and we're just standing someplace, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can ask. But if I'm working, I can't have him do that.
Right. I recall this with Adley, my first dog. I was at a Starbucks set and listening to an audiobook, and he was stretched out enjoying the nice spring day, and this probably about an 8-year-old and his mom come walking out of the restaurant, and Mom, that's a guide dog right there. I wish I could pet that dog, but I know I can't touch that dog. And I stopped I turned my book off, and I said, hey, do you want to pet my dog? And his eyes got so big, and so he just smiling from ear to ear. And, and it was like last Friday, I was at a restaurant with a friend of mine, and there was some kids being real noisy in the restaurant. And I asked our waitress, I said, hey, go tell those kids they can come over here and pet my dog. And that just shut everything down. Wrangler was happier than crap. He was getting petted, and, everybody was good. So I let it happen from time to time.
That's good. That's awesome.
My wife says that Finn's the only guide dog with a harness that can roll over on his back to get belly rubs.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mine
Oh,
does
yeah.
all the time. And if she gets bored, even with the harness, she's rolling over like, haven't had enough attention in a while, and she's there with her legs up, like, and they're like, wow, look at that dog. Like,
but you definitely have to make sure that it's not everybody's petting them. So like I said, when they're working, no, if I'm stopped and not doing anything, that's different. If I can have them sit, then it's fine.
I think the other biggest thing here too is a lot of people carry dog treats around with them today. And the biggest no-no you can make with me is you can feed my dog something.
Yes.
That's a big, dangerous thing.
Yep.
Good point. Hey, I'm going to go back to something. Eric just wanted to interject. He's our director of advocacy. He said, and he travels a lot. So he said, as for traveling, ask the airline, if you have a guide dog, ask the airline for their accessibility 800. It says Humberto. I'm not sure that's correct. Their 800 line to get a better seat location. They do it at no charge.
Yeah. We've been on a bunch of times, Eric. You're right. I mean, accessibility is pretty helpful on that stuff, but they fit. You know what? I took Emerald to Europe. They manage, if they need to hold, you're like, wow, that's a long time holding your business. And yep, she did, held it perfectly, no trouble, slept the whole time. So, it gets to us now where we go on. Once I find the row, the harness comes off, she backs in, puts her butt underneath the seat in front, puts her head down, and that's it. She puts her head down, doesn't raise her head until we land on the other side. It doesn't matter how long the flight is.
I will say with traveling now with the airlines, the last few years, they've kind of started doing this thing where each airline's a little different, which is a pain in the ass, but there's a form that you have to fill out. And some airlines, and some of them, American Airlines wanted you to do it like 2 weeks before, and so they can give you a head, okay it or whatever. Southwest, you just have this form, you hand it to them, and they go, okay, as long as it's filled out. So just check with each airline.
Yeah, each airline is very different, and I wish I would have to say that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I think the airline industry has made when it comes to those of us who use guide dogs. is there's no uniformity to it. The only uniform thing there is the DOT form.
Yep.
But the way some airlines actually use a third party to give you the okay.
Yeah, that's American
Um,
Airline does that.
Actually, they have an accessibility center now.
Oh, okay.
And when I had Adley, it was fill out the forms. You had to photograph the forms and then email the forms in. And then you would get a ID number. And it was only good for 1 year. Now they've changed that to you fill it out, you turn it in. I think it's 48 hours before you fly. And, then you get an ID again, but now it's good for, I think, 3 years of the life of the dog, one or the other.
Mm.
So
Which airline's that?
American.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
And
We're gonna keep going, guys. We have 8
Yep.
questions, if
Yep.
that's
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
If that's okay, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
Actually, we have 9 questions. Okay, here we go. The next one, this is awesome. Next question is, how much sight loss must you have to qualify for a guide dog? How about one person? Bob, you want to take that one?
You just need to be legally blind.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
some of the guide dogs, and you should check too, because the schools can be a little bit different on that. There's some
Yep.
of them want you to be even less, have less vision than that, and others are more flexible. So that's something where if you're pretty far advanced, no problem, everybody will take it. If you've got something, then you may want to just it's an easy question to ask them, how much vision do I need? Because that's the first thing they'll ask you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there an upper age limit? I know someone who is an older adult who may want to get a guide dog, but is worried about being an older adult. And will the school have a say in being 70 plus is too old for a guide dog?
Well, I'll be 70 in January. So when I was there getting my first dog, there was a lady there that was 84. So it's really your health and how you move.
It's
Yeah.
totally
So,
your health.
Yeah,
So-
it's all dependent on your mobility and your health.
They've got kind of soft. I think Seeing Eye say, well, we have a soft upper limit at like 75 or so, but they have a 95-year-old who just came back and got his dog. His like
Yeah.
7th dog or 8th dog, because he's in really good shape, walks around
Wow.
really well, good faculty. So it's all about physical health.
And the big
And then
thing is
on
the big
the
thing
other
is they
end,
want you to work the dog. They don't want it to become a pet.
yeah. On the other end of that, most schools want like an 18-year-old.
Right.
With a few exceptions, they'll take 16 and 17-year-olds, but there's got to be really good reasons for it.
Mhm.
Yep.
How do they pair up dogs, guys, with personalities? How do they do that process of figuring out who goes with what dog?
So
Well, there's a
Why don't they
lot that goes into that.
go in the same order? How do they do it at Seeing Eye, John?
yeah, you know what I'll tell you. So the match, which is what they call it, we have there's a little bit of science and some art. The science part is, and I'm sure it's the same for everyone, they call it pace and pull. So
Mhm.
pace being how quickly do you walk? Mike said he walked quickly. I walk quickly too. Imagine if you have a slow walking dog with a fast walking person or vice versa. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. It won't last 5 minutes. So they match you with pace first, and which they do on a bunch of sample walks. Then pull is also, dogs pull at a different strength level. Some dogs are gentle when they pull. Emerald pulls hard. And so, if you're not able to hold back on how hard she pulls, then that won't be a good match either. So pace and pull they can measure, and that's good, and measure. The other side though, when you got to was personality, and there it's somewhat of, hey, are you going to be in a city? Are you going to be in the country? Are you looking for the dog to do this, do that? Then there's some of the dogs that go through and said, yeah, the dog did okay in the city, but it was really, really good navigating around in the country. That might be a better fix. And what's your personal setup? Are there little children around at home, or is it just like the two of you, one couple? And what are you like? Are you looking, my instructor told me when I asked her that exact question, she said, well, I knew I needed a dog that was really chill because that's the way you come across. And they nailed it perfectly. So
lead,
that's seeing eye. But you know, Bob, what's
leader dog, leader dog, when you apply, you have to, there's a set of, you have to send them a vid, you have to do a video of you using the cane or using the dog that you have now. Um, and what they tell me is it's all the same, kind of the same thing, but what they will do is as you apply, the group of each year, each month's training group will look at at these things and say, you know, I think that Finn is a good fit for Bob, or you know, they do it's a little magic, but they seem to do pretty good. Both times I've been there, um, they had to trade out one dog out of 36 and one out of 24 didn't fit, and but they did find another dog that fit them while they were there. So um, it, like you said, it's a little science, a little magic.
And just one last thing. What the seeing eye typically do is because they come out to your house and they interview you, they see your space and all that before you go to the school and before acceptance. So they've got in their head already by the time it's there. They work through, they've got 2 or 3 dogs they think might be good matches for you. And then when you show up on campus, you got a couple of days of just getting used to things and before you get your dog. So
Mhm.
then they nail everything down by day 2 and say, "Ah, yeah, that's what I thought." And the 2 or 3 goes down to 1, and that's the match done.
That's good,
Yeah.
guys. Let's move on to a question. We have 3 that seem to cover finances. One is what does it cost to get a guide dog?
Okay.
Are the vet fees covered by the state? And then let me just make sure. Do you get help with paying for annual vet bills from your guide dog school? And if there's any other ones, I'll catch them.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah,
As far as I know, Guide Dogs for the Blind is the only school that covers the dog from the day it's born till the day it dies. My wife and me, we cover a lot of the little cost here and there. But for big veterinarian bills, you know, we let GDB, we just submit a form. You call them ahead of time, they give you a number, and, you know, you go in, you take care of the bill. I've got a really good vet, and they don't even ask me, they just automatically send the bill to GDB. And in that respect, it's like when Adley got attacked, and then with all the emergency care that he required, that bill was in the neighborhood of $13,000. And I could have covered it, but it was going to be painful. But GDB just stepped in and covered every cent. So there's, in some respects, a lot of people that have guide dogs are mostly very low income people. They, you know, it's you know, SSI or something like that, and you know they'll give you a you know a dollar amount for dog food or something like that they'll help you out. They won't cover the whole thing, but they'll cover a large percentage of it. You know, so most of the stuff my wife and me cover, but you know when it comes to the big annual cover, you know, annual care and stuff like that, GDB just automatically covers it. It's like right now I gotta order new flea and tick stuff, and that stuff's gotten amazingly expensive.
How about the
Leader,
other schools?
What's that?
Leader dog does not. They are in the process of creating well, kind of a grant thing where you can you can up like up to $500. You can get a rebate. And then since Leader Dog is connected with Lions Club, there are a lot of Lions clubs or groups connected to Lions. Like in Indiana, there's a Leader Dog, Indiana Lions for Leader Dog. They have a deal where you can you can get $125 3 times a year to help with the expenses. Otherwise, it's you're covering it.
And yeah, seeing eye is is the same. It's same as what Bob said. There was just a recent talk. People were asking in a graduate call just a couple of weeks ago, hey, some of the other schools pay for vet bills, and some do, like GDB and Guiding Dog and Guiding Eyes for the Blind, which is like the Westchester, New York one, really close to me. They pay as well, up to 500 a year. Seeing Eye, technically you're on your own for vet bills. They will do all kinds of consulting stuff, third party, but there is a fund being formed now to let people to share
Right.
in some of that. Food wise and everything, that's all on us.
Yeah.
And but yeah,
It,
otherwise,
now
um,
with Leader Dog, if you're within the driving distance or whatever of the school, they since they have a complete vet clinic there, it's all free there. You can take them there and they will
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah. GDB is the same way.
Yeah.
Either campus.
Thanks, guys. We're going to keep moving because the questions keep coming in. Here's the next one. How long of a wait is it to get a dog?
uh,
Typically.
it's
I,
a
I,
big, it depends. Um,
mhm.
and it depends. A lot of it is like COVID really messed stuff up in so many different ways, but it made the waiting lists because they shrunk down the classes for social distancing, at least at Seeing Eye. So they had these dogs, and people were trying to get through. It took a lot longer, so it got up to like almost a year and a half, two even. It's down to 6, 7 months at this point, but there's also another factor, which is if you have a specific dog you want, at least Seeing Eye is labs, all color labs, Goldens, German Shepherds, and then they cross labs with Goldens. So
Mhm.
those are, let's call them four different kinds. If you said, well, I really want a female golden retriever that is this kind of size and all that, well, then you may wait a bit. It depends on how the litters, it depends on what's coming out of the litters. Because they've all the big schools have their own breeding stock, so they'll breed
Mhm.
Yeah.
their own dogs. But a lot of it is, if you just say, no, I'll take the best dog you have for me, then it's much quicker than if you
Yeah.
have specific.
And Leader Dog's somewhat the same. And I don't know if the other schools, but one of the big things is um, they use what they call puppy raisers, and what people can go and raise the puppy from 8 weeks to a year old. And that's kind of the way they get them socialized in the beginning obedience. And Leader Dog lost a lot of them through COVID. They didn't come
Mhm.
back. So they're still trying to build that uh,
That network.
that network. So they'll tell you between 6 to 8 months to up to a year. And
Right.
it's been 6 to 7 months right now for me.
Are there
Go ahead.
sorry, Mike, maybe you can answer this next question. What breeds can be guide dogs? You guys just touched on that. Are there issues? Are there breeds for blind folks that are allergic to dog hair? Like,
There's a there's a
Berdoodle?
there's a few schools that are starting. I know Guide Dogs for the Desert does more of these. GDB does not, but that is the standard poodle because they have hair. They don't have fur. They have hair just like we do. So they don't shed. Whereas Wrangler down here, he can create a pillow every other day.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that. GDB does only labs, Goldens, and Golden Lab Cross. They got out of the German Shepherd business and other stuff. There was the breeding stock was becoming too narrow, and they were running into a lot of behavioral problems and stuff like with German Shepherds. The only schools I'm aware of that do German Shepherds anymore is Fidelco. They're only German Shepherds. Um, I think CNI still does Shepherds,
Yeah.
but you may have a longer wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And Leader Dog's the same as GDB.
mhm,
They don't have the German Shepherds anymore.
mhm,
And and they did try crossing a shepherd with a lab. I don't know how that worked out, but it could be a goofy looking dog. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing I mean, leader dog years ago did use poodles. And when I was getting my first one, my buddies would say, you got to get a poodle. I said, if I got to get a poodle, I'm going to walk into things. I'm not getting a poodle. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think a lot of them are moving away from. That's the other thing about the guide dog schools. You need to really investigate. There are lots of good ones, and there are some that are not so much.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that's something that if we could just at the end say again the schools that you've experienced, and we'll try to make a note at the end when we send this video out to our membership. We'll see if we can attach a link to these schools that are on our website that people can investigate. You
Mhm.
guys, we still have like 12 questions,
Okay,
so we're
go
gonna
ahead.
keep going.
We'll go real
Um,
quick.
we're just going to keep going. I'm going to see as long as the Zoom invitation here stays open. Here's the next one. Do you have access problems with restaurants or store employees not knowing about guide dogs being allowed, and how do you address that? Let's just take one person answering if that's okay,
Sure.
just to get through these.
My short answer is no. In 16 years, I've had one restaurant, and then the manager fixed it. But pretty much, I haven't had that issue.
Okay.
Haven't had
I
that.
know some people do.
Mhm.
But if
Okay.
it is, if you do, it's really quick. And usually it's somebody who doesn't know better, and the managers come flying out and go, so sorry, sir, so sorry. Absolutely, come on in. So I just smile and I wait a second, because invariably it sorts itself out super quickly. You don't have to push, don't have to be mad. It'll work out fast.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
biggest issue is the fact that people these comfort where they get the thing on the online and call it a
Emotional
comfort dog or
support
emotional
animal.
support animal,
Oh.
and what people if they've experienced a service dog, they'll know what it is, because the dog just lays there under the table. You know,
Mhm.
it's not pulling, it's not yapping, it's not doing anything. But that's
Mhm.
the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And once that happens the first time, Beth, as you know, then they go, oh, I remember him. That's the nicest behaved dog I've ever seen. And you get immediately whooshed in there the next time and the next time and the next time. So
Yeah.
Here's another question. How do you trim your dog's toenails when you cannot see the nail? Do you have a groomer, or do you do it yourself and the expense of doing so?
I gave up on doing it when I made my dog's toenail bleed like a stuck pig.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. It happened so quick. I just take him to the vet, and it's $27, and we're in and out, and I don't have to worry about hurting my dog, and it's just
Walking
easier.
him so much, Mike,
it
is that
it
something that
does.
needs to be
It
done
it
frequently?
really like almost takes care of the problem all by itself. And yeah, I've
Okay.
got a self-wash place that I take my dog to every once in a while, and they'll look at the toenails, and most of the time it's like, she doesn't need it. They're pretty short.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're
My
walking
first
them up,
dog,
they wear down.
yeah, my first dog, I think I trimmed his nails every 7 months, or had him trimmed every 7 months. It's just because we walked a lot. This guy that I have now, every month he's got to have his nails clipped, even though we walk 2 or 3 miles every day.
Yeah. Wow.
His nails grow fast.
Wow. Okay.
My
How
wife
do
does a
you,
little bit, but we'll take it to groomer, and I'll
I
wait for
hear
my
clicking.
vet tick daughter will come and do it.
hey, there you go. Here's another question, guys. How do you incorporate a guide dog into your home where you may have a cat or another dog?
So the cat stuff's super easy. The schools are great at having cats generally milling around in the kennels. So when the pups come in from the puppy families, sometimes even at the puppy families, they'll have cats, so the dogs get used to them early. But if they don't, then at least at Seeing Eye, they've got a bunch of cats that mill around in with all the dogs in the kennels. So by the time they get to training and stuff, they could care less whether there's a cat there or not. They don't pay any attention whatsoever.
How about
They
a
And
dog?
they really work on that. predator instinct in the dogs because, you know, if you're out on a walk, there could be birds on the ground or squirrels. And that's the last thing you want your dog doing is that predator instinct kicking in. So
And,
that is something that's worked on quite a bit.
and that's one of the reasons a lot of schools are moving away from German Shepherds. It's harder to get
Mm-hmm.
them to get out of that
And
guard, you know, that
yeah,
protection
I gotta
mode.
go chase that thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Finn, we have bunny rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks. It don't matter. He just looks at them and they're like, eh,
same
whatever.
deer. We walked by deer the other day, and you're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
If they make it through the program, normally that's one of the things that will wash a dog out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
more than likely, by the time they've paired you up, that dog doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Are there times still to use a white cane and leave the guide dog at home? I'm thinking about maybe attending loud rock music concerts anytime that you leave them home.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 When do
Yeah.
Definitely.
you guys do that?
Like a big, like, yeah, rock concert or some big gathering that's just loud, and it's no, you just got to use your common sense. Um, Sometimes it's just going to be too long or what. It's mostly noise I will say, or
Okay.
it's just too crowded.
Or super
Yeah.
crowds. Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're really packed in with with a
I
big
mean,
event and stuff where it's noisy and crowded, then
I
sometimes
mean, and it's
that's
not sporting events
a
because
pain for the
fit,
dog. I've done it too on a couple of vacations where they were international and stuff, but I left her at home because I knew it wouldn't be very good for her, and it turned out to be a really good decision. The stuff, sidewalks were super narrow, and there's kind of a lot of wild dogs walking around and stuff. So I mean, you choose on that side. In the U.S. and Canada, you don't worry about that,
Mhm.
at all. But yeah, I think the noise and crowds, it definitely makes sense to leave them at home for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Here's a question, maybe you know the answer. Hopefully, is there a school that trains deaf and blind people with guide dogs? Are there extra training tasks for hearing loss?
Yes.
leader, yes, leader dog is, I think, I don't know. I think it's one of the very few that does
Yeah,
deaf and blind
Yeah.
guide dogs.
yeah,
Well, that
yeah.
was that. I thought that was going to be a harder question. Good job.
No, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
No, it takes a little more time to get the dog for that. So your waiting time may be a little bit longer. But yeah, there are some schools out there, and I'm not sure if GDB does it or not.
yeah. I don't know if
Um,
CMI does either.
in fact, I had a class, just this last class I was in. We had a dog that was being trained on the right side because the gal that was getting the dog, her joints would dislocate very easily,
Mhm.
and her left wrist was constantly dislocating. So they took more time and trained the dog to work on her right. It
Yep,
was pretty fascinating to see.
yep.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't say that to everybody, but yeah, the dogs like work on your left side. Generally, I
Mm-hmm.
mean that's the rule of thumb. So
So it
this is
sounds like you get a
definitely
lot of very personalized treatment when you're in school.
Oh yeah,
That can be really overwhelming, guys. I mean, I'm sure that's a big part of the process, 3 weeks.
it's really good. And remember too, when at these schools too, part of the package, and it's like what Mike was saying, a lot of people who go in don't have very big income, so it is a little scary. Well, how in the world can I pay for this? And the school will generally pick you up at home, take you to school, give you all the training, and then get you home again, and you have the dog now, and all that stuff. So it's a very big expense, and they're privately funded, right? So at least on
yeah.
your outlay is I mean, some are zero,
Mhm.
seeing eyes $150 just because that's what it's always been, and
Mm-hmm.
they haven't changed it since the get-go. So it's not
Wow.
for any other reason other than it's $150. But
It,
um,
and leader dog, it's nothing. Their O&M training, they'll fly you up and for a week and they
Right.
feed you. First with my first dog, I spent $25 in 4 weeks. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks, but
Mhm.
that's one of the things to look for at a guide dog school is if you're having to raise 10 grand,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
which is what
exactly.
some of them you do.
The good schools are not asking you for that. They're well
No.
funded.
Nope.
And
That's a good
Yep.
rule of thumb right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we have 3 more questions. Let me see if we can
Sure.
saw through these. The next one is, can you talk a little bit about bringing a guide dog into your professional office or your work setting? Was it hard? How did you work on that transition?
I
I didn't have any of that. I was already retired.
I was
Okay.
working in a school and I was at a desk and the dog would go under the desk. In fact, the ladies there got him a blanket and a pillow and he'd lay under there and people didn't even know he was there.
That's
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I work in the library, I take him in, he lays down behind me, we're behind a desk, and for 3 hours he just lays there. So as far as I haven't really, that's the only business that it was been in a school. I didn't have to go into any, but I know lots of people that do go to offices and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my work was no problem. I was lucky. I had an office, so it was super easy. And so if I was in doing calls or something like that, then I just put her in the back. I brought in a little kind of dog bed, and then we'd pop out to do walks or for her to do her business and stuff during the day. But no problem. People loved it. People were always like, "Hey." They knew the dog was in there and they're like, "Hey, can I come in and pet the dog?" You're like, "Come on, man. Like, I gotta do some work here." They're like, "Well, we can take the dog for a walk around the floor if you want." You're like, "Oh, come on." Oh yeah. It became
Well,
a center of attention,
yeah,
which actually is
Finn
it
gets to do a little
it
bit
was
of,
nice. It gets a little old after a while, but it was nice at the beginning.
Okay.
Finn gets to do a
And
little
speaking then,
teacher.
it wasn't a hardship.
Yeah,
No,
Mm-mm.
not a hardship. No.
Let's go on to the family. That was another question that was asked. How do you incorporate a guide dog into your family, especially into your marriage?
Um, it's
Oh.
that can always be a little interesting. Usually when you get home with your dog, you have their sleeping area, and Adley and Wrangler both sleep in the corner of our bedroom, and it's on my side of the bed. And Adley, I used it was we call them tie downs. It's a cable about 16 inches, 18 inches long. You just hook that to their leash, and that's how they were trained at school too. So this is not a big deal.
yeah.
Adley took about 2 months because he would not stay in his bed. He was always cruising around the house, so it was a difficult thing for him. My wife was never brought up with the animals, so um, that took a little getting used to for her. Wrangler, on the other hand, when I got him home, he was in a tie down for a week, and it was only at night. That was it. And he doesn't have that investigative thing about like most dogs do. When it's time to go to bed, he goes to bed. Um,
Leap. Okay.
you know, I think the biggest thing that we deal with was when Adley passed, my wife was, this is going to sound wrong, but you have to listen to this. She was happy that she could hold my hand again. Walking, holding hands, and with wife on right side, dog on the right or on the left, it gets a little complicated. So it takes a lot of getting used to. Um, and then the kids can always be a little interesting with the animals. And after a short period of time, they all settle in.
Yeah. If not, leader dog will recommend that you can use the tie down or crate them at night.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then actually my first one, this guy doesn't never really was crated, but my first guy, I'd go, where the heck did he go? And I'd go and find him in his crate because he'd just leave the door open. And dogs like to be in a den. That's just
Mm-hmm.
part of their thing. And if things got a little loud or fussy around the house, he's like, okay, I'll just lay in there. So
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
safety. It's a safe area
yeah,
for them.
Yeah, that's fun.
I haven't had any trouble integrating them
Into the family.
anybody.
Yeah, because when the harness
Yeah.
comes off, and again after they get settled at home and stuff, my wife takes Emerald out for walks. My son and his girlfriend take her out for walks, and she loves it. She's great, just like a normal dog. The one thing I will say though on the marriage and family, the dog for me was kind of a savior because we're guiding around, you're on your wife's like elbow or shoulder or something after a while, and mine was like, okay, this is getting old, man.
Yeah.
Like, I would sooner, and then now I have the dog. And so, hey, this is great. Okay, I don't have to do it. So now it's exactly like what Mike says. This is, well, hey, here, why don't you take my hand? I go, okay, I will, but then I'll drop the harness so the dog's just tailing along with us on that thing because it's tough to go three wide as you're
Hmm.
walking along. So are they in front? And
And
if
my
she walks behind them, my dog's looking back, going, well, I know mom's coming. So it's kind of a slow, jerky walk. And if she goes in front, it looks weird. And so, yeah, you have to get into a comfort zone with the dog and you walking around and spacing, which takes a little time, but it
Hmm.
works.
Those are all.
my wife will tell you that it gave her it took a big load off her shoulders because she was always worried, like if something happened to her, what would I do? And it just the whole independence thing.
Hmm.
She was all for it, and so I don't think it's much of a problem.
It added, it sounds like
It,
Bob.
it was a net
Yep,
plus, that's for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, in my
and
house, it's
grand and the
absolutely
Oh,
grand
yeah.
and the grandkids love them.
Yeah.
no question,
Here's
right?
an interesting question. It's actually I think, last question. It says, can a blind person puppy raise for guide dog school?
Yes.
Wow.
The gal that I was just talking about that had the harness on her right side instead of her left, she actually raised 6 dogs for GDB before she became a handler.
I was gonna say I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I didn't
I
know.
don't
I
know if you
mean,
could do it by yourself. Maybe if you have a
in your
somebody with
family
you, but
stuff.
I that would be a great question. And and I'm sure like all the other schools, if you go to one of the schools' websites, they have lots of questions and
Hmm.
Leader Dog. I don't know
Facts.
if the other school Leader Dog has a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos that you can go see.
Yeah, seeing eye
Hmm.
does too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Here's
I'd
one.
say just to finish up, I can't imagine not having a dog. I mean, now that I have one, I mean, until I physically can't have one anymore, whenever that might be, fine. But until that point, I cannot imagine not having a dog.
Nope.
Nope. Yeah. I
In
love
fact,
it.
we're going on Alaska cruise next year, and he's going.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we did have one more question come in, and can a guide dog, I think, if someone is in a power wheelchair and is blind, can they still use a guide dog?
Yes,
Yeah, I think so.
Great
they
answer.
they can
There.
train them to do it.
Yeah.
It may
There's
be a
a.
little
I think
longer.
there. Yeah. There's 1 or 2 schools that specialize in that, but
Okay.
it's not something they see all the time.
No,
You guys, we did it. It was like longer than I anticipated, but these were such good questions, and we had 20 folks that were on, and we still have 15. So, any other final thoughts, final questions? Now is the time to finish up. Anything we forgot?
and I'm sure like any of the John and Mike, if anyone's got any more questions, they can
Exactly.
go through CHM or they can directly
Reach
Yeah.
reach out
reach
reach
out to
out to
us.
us.
Yeah. I was
If,
going to
if you
say.
have specific questions about each school, um,
One.
it turned out for most, it seems like all three of us, it just was more convenient to go to the school near us. Um, I actually thought about guide dogs because I thought, hell, I'll get a free trip out to California.
Hmm.
My dad
Hey,
traveled from
you.
Minnesota to GDB and loved it. Did it twice.
Yeah,
Yep.
my last experience at GDB, you didn't want, man. One week the weather was beautiful. Second week, 12 inches of rain in 4 days, and we worked
Yeah.
in that crap every
Whoa.
day.
Well, I may be going up to Michigan in January or February, so that's
Yeah.
not not my favorite time of year, but
Yeah,
we'll get through
I
it.
here again. Um, most people will see me on. I've got my own Facebook page. I've got I'm part of the CRF. page. And, you know, if you really want to talk to myself, you know, contact Beth or Corey, and they can pass my information and give me a call.
Same with me.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Oh, you guys, I will absolutely.
Yeah.
It's part of the story. It's, you have to become an advocate for, you know, the whole process.
Come to the CRF conference and you can chat with me. I've been to most of them.
Well, that seems like a really fitting time here to say, if you like these videos and you want to continue to see them and you want to be a integral part of the CRF, we certainly would love to have any more of your efforts as a volunteer, or you can donate any types of funds you'd like to the Choroideremia Research Foundation. Or if you have suggestions on how we can continue to do webinars or meetings like this, please let us know, because we certainly want to just keep advocating and being a partner with our members. We're family. So I think that's it. Great. Everybody's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. You're welcome. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
guys.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Yep.
Thanks. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Right.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
You guys. All right. We'll see you.
Thanks.